Time to do some old school fishing. The setting is one of my favorite dams, and the year is the summer of 1994. Back then, my parents would drop me and a buddy off here at this very dam to fish with rooster tails. And I tell you what, I caught a ton of fish using rooster tails at this dam back in the day. And I'm hoping I can catch something today. At least I'm going to give it a really good try. And because the turbines are off and the water is super clear, I'm going to go with a white one. I am seeing tons of fish in the water. Drum, carp, buffalo. I haven't seen any splashes yet, but I'm hoping there's some white bass in the area. Maybe even the rare skipjack. There we go. Let's see if I can catch something here, and if I can't catch anything here, I'll move elsewhere. I used to be able to catch a fish on almost every cast here. And usually it was when the generators were running. Here's a quick bank fishing tip for when you're using artificial lures. You want to basically fan your cast, which means, start from the left or the right, and reel it in, and then move over a little bit, like started on the left, go to the right just a little bit, 10 degrees, 20 degrees. It helps you cover all the water that's in front of you. Straight out. And eventually, all the way to the right. And you just covered the entire area. All right, before I give up here and try another day, because I might have to come here early morning to be able to catch anything. Used to be able to catch them, all the time, but now, early morning. I'm going to try the brightly colored one. And of course, I'm going to throw all this trash away. Thankfully, they provide a trash can where I can put this trash in. There we go. If this doesn't work, this will become a multi-day video. And that is because I don't want to get skunked. Looks like they're about to turn the turbines on. That might be a good thing. Here we go. Not quite what I remember happening in the past. I know they have replaced the turbines with more efficient turbines or something. Maybe they were just letting air out, I don't know. The turbine is not on. They could be testing something too because there's a lot of workers here. Of course, when they did that, they muddied up the water pretty good too. Glad I switched to something that would work well in muddy water. Or should work well in muddy water. Now they're opening the other side. I think that's the actual turbine now. So there'll be rapid water here on out, at least until I give up and try in the morning. And there's Bald Eagle. Very cool. There's usually a couple around here. Well, at least there's a lot going on, with the exception of me catching fish. I don't know how long this will take to fire up the fish, but I am going to give it 20 more minutes or so of casting, and then I'll have to try another day. It is getting really hot out here, and I forgot my sunscreen. Welcome to try number 4. And that's a loon that just swam by. He's been here like a week. Loons are incredibly rare. And it's kind of cool that one has been around this dam for a while. Now, I have been catching a bunch of white bass with my guests here on shiners. So I'm doing what I wouldn't have done when I was a kid. And I've come here early morning, maybe even not early enough, to see if I can at least get one white bass. And like I just said, this is my 4th attempt. And I'll tell you why it's been so difficult after I catch a fish. Hopefully it won't take me like 10 attempts to catch a fish on a rooster tail here. But I'm going to try it. Eventually I'll get one. There we go. White bass. There we go. Finally, white bass on rooster tail. Really cool. Now I do have a cool story to tell you about white bass. I don't think I, said it during like the first part of this video. So let me release this guy and then just tell you guys the story. Now, a long time ago, a brother of one of my buddies, he really disliked fishing. He really did not like fishing, and it took a lot of convincing and some pretty ladies to get him to come down here to fish. So I took him, and this was on the bank. So it was him, his brother, who liked fishing, which I fished with a lot, and about, 5 pretty ladies. And we were all fishing from the bank with basically rooster tails and grubs, twisty tail grubs. And we caught white bass, white bass, white bass, white bass. It was crazy. And it was probably a little bit more than normal. I mean, when I was younger, I always caught fish here every single time I came here. And that day was just a little bit more exceptional. Probably because he was having a good time. It pretty much changed his mind about fishing, because he told me, he didn't like fishing because he didn't catch anything whenever he went fishing. And then when he went fishing with me on the bank here, we were catching fish like crazy. And as you can see, white bass, they do fight, pretty hard. And there are at least some left here. I will say, this place used to be amazing, with the fishing. And there was 2 things. I'd come here anytime. Even in the wintertime, my parents wouldn't drop me off in the winter. I'd have to convince someone to drive me here. But even in the middle of the wintertime when I was a kid, I'd catch fish. In the middle of the summer, I'd catch fish. And it didn't matter if the generator was on or the generator was off. And there was another thing. There was always like shad around like everywhere here. You could dip net shad easily. And I bought a dip net specifically to do that, which I wasn't the only one doing that, catching, all the shad. And I will say, I didn't really want to do that in this video, but after, 4 tries to catch a fish, with a rooster tail specifically, yeah, I'm going to talk about it in this video. And there has been a major decline. Now, this is still one of the best places around here to actually catch a fish. And you got to be here early morning. That's why I do my mixed bag guided trips here, because you can catch fish, and everybody enjoys catching the fish. But they do turn off, when the sun starts coming up there's really nothing going on. And that's not how it used to be. I could come here at noon or 1 o'clock. It would be like 80 degrees out on a hot summer day back then and catch fish. And that would be skipjacks, that would be white bass, largemouth, smallmouth, everything. And now, and it's just a kind of a morning bite. And there's a reason for that. And I saw the decline, when I was a kid. So like when I was 13, 14, 15, come here, catch fish like crazy. And then I started noticing it was fewer fish, fewer thread fins. And by the time I'm 20, 21, I'm getting skunked almost every day. And there are absolutely no thread fins. Now, I do see thread fins sometimes when I'm in my boat, and I see them, along the walls and stuff, but they're few and far between. And what I found out, there was a bait dealer since back then that was hitting this waterway every single day gathering shad, which he can do that. You got a bait dealer's license, you can get as many threadfin shad as you can get, and he would fill his bait tanks up as much as possible. Now, he's probably 80% of the reason why the decline is here, because, you get rid of the bait fish, well, everything else declines. I've seen white bass with damage on them, like, the stripers and other fish are trying to eat the white bass because there's nothing else to eat, or there's few of other things to eat here. And I can be to blame. Let me hook myself here. I am to blame a little bit too, because I had that dip net and others were dip netting them. And when you have, 20 or 30 different fishermen dip netting, thread fins, and then you have a bait dealer that is catching billions of them daily, this is what happens. It takes 4 days for me to catch one fish on a rooster tail. And I have to do it at the morning time, which, in general, morning time is the best time to fish. But I didn't have to do that when I was younger. I really didn't want to, turn this video into the decline here. I was hoping to be just, I'd be able to catch one like I used to. But sometimes I guess I don't need to be that naive and just realize, this is the best, place to fish around here. And it's declined a lot. It was so much better. And that's not, my memory playing tricks on me. I'm going to try to get at least one more. I still see, like, I think those are white bass jumping. I'm going to try to catch another one, or at least give a good effort. But, yeah. Still, there's enough action here and enough fish here to attract a loon from up north down here. And he's been hanging out for quite a while. And the ospreys have scared off the bald eagle, which that's what they do. They're very aggressive, and they will run a bald eagle out of an area. All right, let's get to fishing. I think that's a small school of white bass out there. That's kind of what I cast at earlier to catch that one. They're just kind of chasing stuff to the surface. I can't really cast that far. Trying to play whack-a-mole on the boils or whatever. That's what I tell my clients to do when they have a shiner on, or if they're, throwing some kind of artificial bait. Try to hit, where the action is. Play whack-a-mole, and eventually you get something. We got one of our striped bass that way with the shiner because they were boiling nearby, landed on the boil, and they grabbed the shiner. What will be real fun is if a striper decides to grab a rooster tail. This is capable of fighting one, but if it's like a 40-pounder, it might break the line. And as you can see, I'm just reeling it really slow, and I may be too high. I'm 6 feet above the water, and this bait does not like drop when you reel it. Now I will give a perspective from the shad dealers. Basically, they have a valid point. When these dams were built on the main lakes, creating all of our big lakes around here, it caused the shad population to absolutely explode. And I will say that it was only a couple of years ago, there was so many threadfin shad on the lake that's above this dam that you could literally walk on them, walk on water on the threadfins. From one end of the lake to the other, there were just an astronomical amount of threadfins. And that's what happens on, you know, the big lakes. And that's why they say, you know, that it's okay for them to catch billions of shad. And it is an actual, you know, real thing that I've seen before myself. So there's not a kind of a overall shad problem. There's just a shad problem here. They hit, or at least, I mean, to my knowledge, it was only one guy that hit this area hard, and look what happened. If they're still doing it, that's probably why the population is low. There are threadfins. I know where they are right now, where I could catch thousands, maybe even 100,000 threadfins right now downriver from here. They just, for whatever reason, they don't come to the dam anymore. The fishermen, the fish, and the shad dealer has depleted it enough that they're just sporadic pockets. You just gotta find the pocket where there's 100,000 shad, then you can fill your bait tank up and go fishing. So it's not as good as it used to be, but there's still stuff around here. And I do know, like, it wasn't yesterday's trip, but it was the trip before yesterday. We were catching drum, but a lot of the drum looked emancipated. They were all super skinny. And then yesterday we were catching drum that were not super skinny. So even the, you know, the rough fish get hit. And I'm looking in the water right here and I'm seeing drum, and there's a sucker right there just doing their thing. At least there's plenty of rough fish here. There's tons of mussels for them to eat, and that's what these drum are eating. You know, drum will eat threadfins and, you know, other material. But they do eat a lot of mussels too, and there's a lot of mussels here, and that's what these guys are chomping on right now, right next to the bank. If I had like a polarized filter for my camera, I could give you guys a really good look at them. That's why I catch a bunch of fish on my mixed bag trips, because at least the drum bite a lot. And yesterday we did catch a lot of white bass too, quite a few. Not close to a limit, like the limit is 15. And I had three people with 5 rods out, and we probably caught 9 or 8 white bass. Not a limit, but at least they're here, and we did release them all. And now as I'm talking to you guys, the boils are getting closer to the bank here. Could be my bright shirt scaring them off, because this is ultra clear water. I'm also 20 miles up off the water now. Or like 12 feet or so. Kind of makes it hard to work a rooster tail all the way up here. at least I caught a fish, so the video is now not skunked. It's been about a month and 4 attempts to catch one fish on a rooster tail. I probably should just stick to live bait. Anyway, I think I am going to head back to the house now, unless a fish grabs this one that I just cast. You know what they say about, the last cast, you end up casting again a few hundred more times. But as always, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to actually watch this video. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to apologize. I wanted this to be like a positive video. Just nostalgia. Take a rooster tail that I used to catch tons of fish with and catch a few fish here and make a video. And that didn't happen exactly as I planned. But, that's fishing for you. Sometimes you just can't plan on things, especially when things have changed a lot. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I got to figure out what I want to fish for next. I might come here a couple of more times. I really do want to catch some more buffalo and carp here and bring my carp rods. I just need to do it early in the morning. Thanks again for watching. I do hope to see you next time.